Saturn is entering Pisces 4. Heavy traffic on a narrow isthmus. An isthmus is a thin bit of land that joins two islands. Interactivity between many people. The complexity of social interaction that creates a culture depends upon the exchange of goods and services, ideas and knowledge. This goes hand in glove with complex movement patterns, which are the traffic of these exchanges. This traffic is a network that carries innumerable resources and journeys in a confusing, potentially tangled web. The tangles can become very frustrating and therefore potentially dangerous at times, so we learn the need to conduct our communications and exchanges with some care. So in this wisdom we're looking at that there is convergence of interests between all participants in any event, and that we have to find our way to negotiate when overcrowding brings limitation. It's a very busy world that we live in, and some places are ridiculously overcrowded, and even when your life is not, you're going to feel it is at some point, because there's just too much going on. Particularly, there are too many people for you to accommodate easily. Now, we're trained at a very early age in social skills. There are certain things that we do that represent the oil of interconnectivity between people. And these are things like good manners and a certain amount of tolerance and patience and selflessness. There are ways that we have to be to accommodate the fact that there's too many of us, really. And that's a huge skill. Now, when Saturn is going in there, it's not so much teaching us what to do and showing how this is effective and efficient, a good way to run a community. It's actually wagging its finger at us if we haven't got it right thus far. So Saturn is saying, look, stop being so selfish. Find a way to negotiate the difference between what you want and what they want. And if you don't, then there will be conflict. And Saturn is the agency through which we understand what we need to do to mitigate the risk of conflict. There is always a risk of conflict in every situation, actually. It's the nature of life. Life is built on that principle. If you look at nature, it's all about conflicting interests, finding a way to be together. And we're no different from that. We have conflicting interests with the people on our island, metaphorically speaking, and they want what they want, and we want what we want, and there's a limited amount to go around. There's this sort of sense of scarcity. I think on a deeper level that's a false affirmation that the world is filled with scarcity and lack, and there's not enough space, and there's not enough money, and there's not enough food. These are imperfections of mind, but actually it's so prevalent. Everyone seems to think this way, that the reality collectively that we inhabit is one of scarcity. And in particular, we're looking here at the scarcity of space. But I think it can be extended to include whatever you need that somebody else feels that they want instead, and you have a conflict. So the suggestion here is that you need to find a way to negotiate your way around that, to put aside the certainty of your own success and just see whether or not there's a golden position where everyone is feeling okay about the outcome. And this is where Jones takes us in his text. He's looking more at the affirmation of convergence of interests. Heavy traffic on a narrow isthmus. This is a symbol of the ultimate illimitability of human relationships, dramatized here in the more personal and ever-ramifying environment of everyday affairs. There are no potentialities of common self-interest that man cannot shape for the convergence, convenience, and encouragement of a whole selfhood and a well-integrated community. But a high discipline is always necessary for both the individual and the group in each particular development of immediate reality. The keyword is convergence. In positive, the degree is an unusual gift for organizing all transient enterprise in patterns of a rewarding and overall effectiveness, and when negative, stubborn blindness to the general welfare. If we take this up a notch, we're looking at geopolitics. This is the study of how this principle works on the global level. And we find that countries perceive themselves to be in lack, where other countries have abundance, and they trade. And the network of that trade might be the high seas or the rail system or the road system. And these systems are getting clogged now. Even though we have this whole world to play with, we've filled it up. And the routes that carry those things which are absolutely essential for our normal comforts, such as the oil tankers and the container ships and so on, transiting around the world all of the time. This has been the feature of the last 70 years arbitrarily, when global trade has become more and more and more prevalent, up to the point now where it's quite kind of ridiculous. We can buy anything we want immediately and have it delivered from our door, notwithstanding the fact that it was made by 100 people in 100 countries. The component parts are all pieced together somewhere, and they come from somewhere else, and they're all shipped. Now that shipping had to be protected from piracy and so on. And America did that with its Navy. And it's not going to do it anymore, according to the expert opinion on the fact. So what we're going to find is much more conflict will take place on the high seas and other trade routes. And we're going to have interruptions in our supply of goods and services. And that will be, shall we say, the sign of the age, that what was flowing quite smoothly until now will not flow quite so smoothly anymore. Now, this is not only things on ships. This also will be ideas and the movement of people from one country to another, the whole mobility thing and the whole fluidity thing. Saturn is coming into this point now to remind us of what happens when this mercurial flow of goods and services is made cold by the lack of trust, and therefore is slowed down and stopped in some cases, and there will be lack. We're having to come to terms with that soon. Now, Saturn in this degree of Pisces is going to remind us of what that is like. We might find inconvenience or lack is brought to our attention over the next few days as Saturn goes through this degree, just to show us what it's like in the times ahead. These times are coming. I don't think we can escape them. We've been too self-indulgent for too long, and the planet has paid a terrible price for this, and it has to stop. So Saturn is showing us something about the first stages of that, where nobody has quite enough and everyone's very busy trying to get what they need, and it's not going to work very well. Saturn is going to show us how to make do without something that previously we took for granted.